Yeah, please.
अस्तो माँ सद्गमय, तमसो माँ ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतम गमय। आप सभी को सादर नमस्कार। गुड आफ्टरनून सर। A warm and hearty welcome to Dr. A.C. Bathanupillai sir, and welcome to all distinguished guests and participants who have joined online for this live session. आप सभी का हार्दिक स्वागत एवं अभिनंदन है। It is momentous occasion for all of us and a great privilege and joy for me as I welcome the legendary engineer, scientist and management guru Dr. A. Sivathanu Pillai, father of BrahMos Missile Technology, on National Skill Development Forum platform. I am fortunate to host you, Dr. Pillai sir, and we all are proud of your dignified presence here. सर, आपकी गरिमामय उपस्थिति को मैं प्रणाम करता हूं। Before we move ahead, as per our traditions and great culture, we take blessings of Goddess Ma Saraswati. I request you all to please pray with us in the praise of Ma Goddess Saraswati. Thank you, sir. Thank you. I have been joined by our President, our Chairman, National Skill Development Forum, Engineer Sunil Groverji. He is a renowned power engineer and he has served Himachal Pradesh in various capacities. Recently retired as Managing Director of Himachal Pradesh Road Dispatch Authority. During his tenure, Sir, sorry for I forgot to on my mic. I have been joined by my chairman, National Skill Development Forum, Engineer Sunil Grover. He is a renowned power engineer. He has served Himachal Pradesh in various capacities. He recently retired as Managing Director, Himachal Pradesh Load Dispatch Authority. During his tenure, HP State Load Dispatch Authority attained #1 status in the country. Sir, this is our chairman's background, and now I move on to the today's visionary talk, disruptive innovations and inspirational leadership. Innovations are constantly occurring in industry, in every industry. Disruptive innovations refer to a technology whose applications significantly affect the way a market or industry function. It refers to a new development that helps create a new market and value market, which eventually goes on to disrupt the existing market and value market. The term disruptive innovation is used to describe innovations that improve a product or service in a way that market does not expect. Disruptive innovations require inspirational leadership to win. To understand the whole concept, today we are fortunate to have with us Dr. A. Sivathanu Pillai sir, who is a legendary, visionary engineer, scientist and management guru India has produced. Born on 15 July 1947, Dr. Pillai graduated in electrical engineering from Madras University in 1969. Underwent management program at Harvard Business School 1991 and obtained PhD degree from Pune University 1996 and Doctorate of Science from Tumkur University 2012. Dr. Pillai's 50 years of experience in ISRO and DRDO under the great visionary leaders, Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, Professor Satish Dhawan, and long association with Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam made him technology leader in the field of satellite launch vehicle, guided missiles, and aerospace system. Dr. Pillai's contribution to the successful development of SLV-3 as a core team member and evolution of PSLV-3 configurations for ISRO have been remarkable. His skills in networking multiple institutions for the development of critical missile technologies, overcoming technology denial regimes imposed by developed nations, and innovative program management techniques enabled realization of Agni, Prithvi, Nag, and Akash missiles as its program director and chief controller R&D DRDO. BrahMos Airspace is a unique joint venture, first of its kind between India and Russia to design, develop, produce, and market the most advanced supersonic cruise missile. His outstanding leadership qualities as CEO MD of BrahMos Aerospace made India proud to propose the fastest, highly precise, and the most potent missile BrahMos, which is now inducted in multiple platforms in all the 3 services of Indian Armed Forces. BrahMos is a world leader in the family of cruise missiles, surpassing those in the development countries. As the architect and founder CEO of the joint venture, Dr. Pillai is regarded as the father of BrahMos missile, BrahMos technology, which is become a role model for establishing joint venture between India and any other country. Well known as a defense technologist in the world, Dr. Pillai has been recognized by many prestigious engineering and management institutions with fellowship. He has received honorary doctorate. He has received honorary doctorate from 15 reputed universities of India and Russia. Moscow University of Security, Defense and Law Enforcement honored Dr. Pillai with Order of Peter of the Great and academician of the university. He has published so many papers in Indian and international journals and conferences. Dr. Pillai has written 8 books, including The Path Unexplored Success Mantras of BrahMos, Revolution in Leadership, co-authored Nanoscience and Nanotechnology for Engineering and Ocean Welfare. He co-authored with Dr. Kalam the book Envisioning an Empowered Nation and Thought for Change We Can Do It. Dr. Pillai is recipient of many prestigious awards. Dr. Vikram Sarabhai Award, Organization for Industrial, Spiritual and Cultural Advancement International Award from Japan, Raja Ram Mohan Puraskar, Lokmanya Tilak Award, Performance Excellence Award from Institution of Industrial Engineering, Lal Bahadur Shastri National Award, Padam Shri 2002 and Padam Bhushan 2013 by Government of India for his contributions in aerospace, missile and defense technologies, and Order of Friendship by Government of Russia, highest Russian award for foreign citizen. Presently, he is President, Project Management Associate of India. Sir, we are really honored to have you on our panel. Over to Dr. Pillai, sir.
You can share the slides now.
Yes, sir. You can.
You are able to see?
Yeah. No, we are not able to see yet. Yeah. Now we are able to see. कर दो ना, इसको बड़ा कर दो, presentation को बड़ा कर दो.
So good afternoon to all of you. Sir, you are able to hear me?
Yes, we are able to hear
Hello? Hear and see the slides.
you. Yeah.
Okay.
Now you go to the slide.
Respected Engineer Sunil Grover, Dr. Joshi, distinguished guests, participants, panelists, friends. It is my, I'm delighted really to share my thoughts on this occasion innovations and inspirational leadership. Our forum, Skill Development Forum, is a very important forum for this country, promoting skills in many fields, including engineering and technology. And it is our fortune that we are associated with this forum to promote the project management. So let me go with my slides. What you are seeing is years before India was a great nation, gave the scientific thoughts and knowledge to the whole world. And we are the pioneers of astronomy, algebra, atomic theory, aviation, medicine, cosmology, and many other things. And we formed the first society and the civilization. We were at the peak of our, to the world. So many people, you are seeing it's fully, you are seeing? Because I am not able to see the slides properly.
Yeah, we are able to see full screen. Yeah.
Only,
Yeah.
I am able to see half screen.
यार क्या एक मॉक कर
How do I close this one? See what happened. I saw this. Now it has come full screen. Okay. So the knowing that India is a very prosperous and knowledge country, many people thought that they should come to India and also occupy. So that's how the many invasions happened, and the successive invasions, non-participation in the Industrial Revolution in the West, and rising population brought our economy down. So with that, the lower strata of our economy, when we got the freedom, we thought of building the nation with the 5-year plans, and real progress came when the economy was opened out in 1991 by the government. And also there was a vision to the nation, by 2020 we should become a developed country. Unfortunately, the 2020 became a big problem for all of us because of the COVID-19, and it retarded the progress and the economy for our nation. But now we are again galloping to see that our people, 700 million youth, once they get the skill set, can bring faster prosperity and growth to the nation. We are all in the knowledge age, and knowledge and the technology, they are the most important thing for the progress. And this is the responsibility of the Skill Development Forum, and we are going to see a new nation in the years to come. So when we thought that India should progress, we evolved a big plan. 500 engineers, scientists joined together. 2 years they worked and brought out the technology vision for the nation under Dr. Kalam's leadership in 17 volumes. The main focus was on the agriculture and agro food processing to get the food security, education, skill and healthcare. This is another important area to see that we get social security and get employment to our people. Then another important area is the infrastructure, including electric power. So providing urban amenities in rural areas for development of the rural economy, and also the river networking, so that we don't get into problem of flood and droughts. So these are the crucial sectors which will enable us to progress the economy, the infrastructure. And also the technology which came, information and communication technology, that was providing us massive employment. So that is the one which brought India, the whole world it has brought. The fifth important area is the critical technologies and strategic industries. So unless the industries develop, unless we possess the important technologies, we will not be regarded as one of the best countries. So there is a big move to see that we get self-reliance in technology, so that all these put together will give economic security for the nation. In the technology, critical technology, the strategic areas, nuclear, space, defense, cyber security was given more importance to in the documents. So the whole idea is to improve the GDP growth rate from the present 5% to more than 10% sustained, and also the poverty line to be reduced to less than 10%. That was the goal with which the whole documents were generated. So the all projects to be taken as a mission mode, so that the skill and the knowledge technology can be dovetailed for the various missions. This was the idea of the whole, the developed India vision, finally to achieve happy, healthy society, economic strength and national security. That was the main goal. So have we achieved all these things? Are we progressing in the right direction? We look at the India in the past. We have got a green revolution, which helped us to generate nearly 300 million tons of food grains. And we are number 2 in the world in rice and wheat. And we have got now a target of 400 million tons in the second green revolution using technology. And we are going for precision farming and the use of satellite in a big way to see that the new inputs get into to achieve the 400 million tons with the reduced area of cultivation. Then white revolution came, and today India is the largest producer of milk in the world. So this on a cooperative movement, Mr. Varghese Kurian started, and it has been a great success in the world. Then we have the power. We are now concentrating on the green power and nuclear, particularly nuclear, or from the present 6,180 megawatt, we are targeting to reach something like 25,000 megawatt by 25. Supercomputer, which was denied to us, but now we are in the petaflop computer. We have done very well in the computing systems. Communication, we have done very well. We have got more than 1 billion connections. And then you see the IT and ITS has given a revenue of more than 220 billion in the last year, that is 2019. And Pharma is also doing very well. We are 4th in the world in the pharma industry, generating $25 billion. And we have the many strategic programs which I was telling you. Space, we have done very well. We are one of the leading space-faring countries in the world. And in the strategic missiles, we have done well. We are completely protected. The nation is protected today with the long-range missiles. And many of the defense systems we have developed and leading to production, increasing the self-reliance. And looking at the moon and Mars to generate new resources for helping our economy. And the new program which is being thought is the hypersonic program, which will hyperplane can be very dramatically, it will improve the status and in technology as well as in the logistics. So this is the type of thing we have done. So if you look at the last few years, definitely the progress has been very well, and we are moving towards achieving many good targets. I am talking about only few examples. Now, there are so many things that have been done in the country, but few things I thought I will tell you to impress upon to you the point on the innovation and the leadership. So the main leadership came from Bobby Baba, who gave a vision to this nation to go for a nuclear science, started the TIFR at Bombay and established the present BRC, and gave a vision to go for a three-directional development for the nuclear technology. And we have done very well. Number one, we have become a nuclear power with a good policy saying that no first use and no use against non-nuclear countries, and minimum credible deterrent will keep to save our nation. So this is the policy which has been enunciated by the government, and today we are not only just a nuclear power, we have got thermonuclear warhead, which is going to give edge compared to our neighbors. Another important thing is we are having 1/4 of the world reserve of thorium. That means we have got a plan to go into thorium-based nuclear energy. That is the direction Baba gave, and there are a lot of developments have happened, and the prototype is functioning now, and we are now producing energy from thorium in a small scale. But in another 10 years' time, you will see India producing more power, nuclear power, using thorium, which is available with us. And the many other things are happening, like one important thing is that the nuclear technology is used for many other development. One is the agriculture, food irradiation, water management, nuclear medicine, and then the spin-off which came is the supercomputer and the robotic systems. So the development has given a lot of results to us. One important thing which is going to happen is the fusion technology. Today what we are using is called fission. The uranium what we use is split it. So because of the fission, the radioactivity is more, and it is giving a safety problem for us. So in the future, we are going for fusion, and the fusion technology is to be developed. So 7 nations have joined together to develop the fusion technology. Now, another important area is the space. Here, the Sarabhai gave a vision to the nation. He identified a place where we can do the experiments for sounding rockets. That place is called Tumba, near Trivandrum, which is the only place in India where the magnetic equator is passing through. So because of the equilibrium available in that place, the whole world is now coming to do experiment of the atmosphere, to conduct experiments up to 300 kilometers above, that is in the atmosphere, to precisely measure the parameters of the different regions. And this is dedicated to the whole world, that tells Tumba Equatorial Rocketology Station. Now then, because of the vision, we have moved to developing our own launch vehicles, our own satellites, and we wanted to be totally self-reliant in the space technology. This vision was given by Dr. Sarabhai. So Dr. Sarabhai, and he is the next person who came, Professor Satish Dhawan, who built the institution. Today's ISRO, what we are seeing, was built by Professor Satish Dhawan. Mission-driven programs he introduced. We had a system approach, strong leadership he gave, and he was a noble leader. Organization culture he built, and then today you see ISRO as one of the best organizations in our country because of him. And we have developed many satellites in the remote sensing, in the communication, and we have become a globally competitive space power. And we have launched more than 300 foreign satellites we have launched. So we have become one of the space powers, looking at the moon and Mars, looking at it. So it all started with the development of SLV-3. So the SLV-3 was headed by Dr. Abdul Kalam. Dr. Abdul Kalam was the project director, and he developed, he and his team. I was also one of the core team members in that this group, and we developed the system which made India a member of the Space Club. And the first launch, we used the totally a program management in a very strict way. And the first launch, which we did on time, on 10th August 1979, the experimental flight number 1, that did not succeed. First stage performed, second stage failed, and the whole the rocket went to the sea. So there was a big problem, but the leader, Satish Dhawan, held the whole fort together, and he, when that immediately after the flight, there was a press conference. The press conference, Professor Satish Dhawan, who was the chairman, who was not the direct person. Direct person was Abdul Kalam. He shielded Abdul Kalam. He said, "I take full responsibility as the chairman for the failure," and he addressed the press conference. In next year, when we did the successful flight on 18 July 1980, so he said, "Kalam, press is waiting for you. You go and address the press." So he gave full responsibility, full credit to that team. See, what I am trying to convey is why ISRO is a successful organization is because of the leadership. That is what is called the inspirational leadership given by Sarabhai and Satish Dhawan, where they showed nobility in leadership. So when there was a problem, they took the responsibility, and when there was a success, they gave full. They were behind the scene. This is a lesson we learned that in management, the very important lesson of leadership is you have to be with the team. So from SLV-3 we have moved over to PSLV. It is a Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle puts the satellite in the polar orbit, pole to pole. So pole to pole, when the satellite is there, it can receive the solar power all the time, and it can cover the whole of the Earth. It can remotely photograph it. But another important vehicle is called the GSLV, Geosynchronous Launch Vehicle, which will put the satellite in the geostationary orbit. Geostationary orbit is 36,000 kilometers above the equator, and the satellite moves at a speed synchronized to the Earth. So you get always the satellite always beams to a particular place. That's how we are getting to all the 24 hours the communication from the satellite. Remote sensing satellite is not available 24 hours. It is available, say, for some few minutes only. It will be available when it is moving. And in a day, it may be, 3-4 visits may be there. But the geosynchronous satellite is available to you all the 24 hours. That's the difference between these two satellites. What is the use of this satellite? The remote sensing satellite is doing the Earth observation. Earth observation is for agriculture. You can do all the analysis related to agriculture, which we are now doing. Then forest, environment, then the biodiversity, water management, then land management, weather, climate, then the ocean potential, the fishing area to be identified, disaster support. All these things can come by the remote sensing satellite, not only for our nation, it can do for many nations. The communication satellite, which I told you in the GSLV puts it, that is mainly to bring the television to our home, then all the communication links, telephones, telemedicine, that is the super specialty hospitals are linked to remote remote places. And you can say Nagaland Peak is linked to a care hospital in Hyderabad. So like that. So super specialty hospitals are linked to remote hospitals where the doctors are not many, super specialty is not available. So tele-education, telemedicine, and that communication, all these things are important. And now the world is moving to telesurgery. A doctor from New York operated a patient in Paris. So telesurgery, that's also is coming up now using the robotic surgery and linked to the satellite. Then the people, rural areas, there are village resource centers in India and multiple places where it's connected to, the satellite is connected through stations at remote places where there are the people, the home people, they can use the satellite communication to understand the market potential or the other cultural programs, everything is connected to that. Another important area is the meteorological. So warning, cyclone warning and other details, and to protect us. There's a disaster management is a very important to the satellite. So like this, today we see the satellite has become very important applications for our daily life. Now, where do we go further? We are more interested to bring resources from other planets, from our moon. So first thing we thought that we should have a mission to the moon. Moon means it's not very near, 4 lakh kilometer, and we did our 2 missions. And we are also going for manned mission, human mission. So in the moon mission, first mission was Chandrayaan-1, where we have located water at the poles, and it just orbited around the moon. In the second mission, we wanted to land and send the rover, but the mission last few kilometers, we could not achieve that. So we are going for Chandrayaan-3, which will take the rover, and the rover will go to the moon. It will pick up the materials, various minerals available, analyze, and real time it will give us the input on the resources available. So that is Chandrayaan-3. So we are also going for Mars mission, where the Mars 1 still working more than 5 years that Mars satellite is functioning. It is giving the complete details about the Mars, but it's going around. Whereas the Americans have put their perseverance recently on the Mars. So Mars is going to be a very important survey, not for bringing results, it is for settling. That is, it can be used for settlement for our future, because Mars once, 1 billion years before, was green like the Earth, and there were living organisms, and now we are trying to find out how we can use Mars for people to live there. That's what is being analyzed now. So a lot of inputs have come, and there's a good hope now that Mars is going to be a very important place. Though it is half the size of Earth, partially people can can go there and live. But only thing is, it's far away. You have to travel 9 months to reach Mars in the present technology. So the technology is also coming up to travel fast. 39 days to Mars, that's a new slogan, and the technology has been developed for moving fast. That's also coming up. So the future, in another 10 to 20 years time, you will see that the visit to Mars will be very frequent. Now the important thing is, in India, we are also looking at the manned missions. So we have selected some pilots now. The Air Force pilots have been trained to go to space, and 2023 they are targeting the First, a lot of people will be going around the Earth and see the Earth from space, and that will continue, and ultimately we'll be sending people to the moon. So that is a plan for the next 10 years. So space program, we have achieved a lot of things, and it has given India, a great name. So what is there on the moon? So the earlier visits to the moon by Apollo missions, it has revealed that moon has got more millions of tons of helium-3. Helium-3 is a very rich resource for producing energy. It is a non-radioactive material amenable for fusion energy. I was talking about fusion technology. So fusion technology is very important, which we are now doing with the 7 nations as ITER program, International the Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, which is being built in Europe, but we are having a 10% share in that. And this will provide us the technology. By 2030, India will be having its own fusion reactors. So the fusion reaction is very important when you want to when you want to use helium-3. Helium-3 has to be mined from moon. So this is what you are saying is a robotic system which goes through the whole area where the gold is available more. From that, it separates out the helium-3, bottles them, and then that helium-3 will be brought to Earth, that is to India, where we will be using it in the reactor. So this is a very important technology for 2 reasons. One is helium-3 is 100 times superior to uranium in generating power. Second, helium-3 is non-radioactive. So our safety requirement and all will be minimum. It will be more safe to use that. Second reason for our interest in the moon is it can be used as a launch pad. Suppose you want to go to Mars from the moon, is easier because the gravitation of the moon is 1/6 of the Earth. So you need only a smaller rocket compared to what we have to do from Earth. Secondly, you have already traveled for lakh kilometers. That advantage is there. So this is going to be a very attractive proposal to have launch pads for our satellite launch vehicles or for planetary missions from the moon. So the settlement on the moon is mainly focused on not for living continuously, for generating results as well as to use it as a launch pad. These are the things. But whereas Mars is not like that. Mars is a livable place. So this is the reactor which I was telling you for fusion energy. The 7-nation consortium to master fusion technology. This is a tokamak which will generate 500 megawatt of power. And we are providing the cryostat. This whole structure, what you see, is given by India, and is already partly built. The remaining will be built by our people. Larsen & Toubro is the contractor for us, and then we are giving the complete shielding is our responsibility. So you can see that wherever our flag is there, you will see our responsibility is there. Here, vacuum missile, this one, RF systems. There are many things. So multiple countries are involved. Leader is the Europe. USA, Europe, Russia, Japan, China, South Korea, India, we are all partnering to develop this technology. So like this nuclear technology, we look at the war technology. What is happening to the war? First and foremost thing is, a war initially was human-centric. Whoever have got many people, and that people with Hercules type will win the war. So slowly it moved to platforms. the tank. This is the first tank. Then warships, uh, aeroplanes, then submarine. All these things started coming in. And the First World War has seen very interesting things. And in the Second World War, we have seen the first guided missile, V2, used by Hitler. So more than 5,000 of these rockets were used against against Britain in the Second World War. And at the end of Second World War, the nuclear blast also happened. So the future, during the Cold War period, we have seen many new things coming. The nuclear submarine, the missiles launched from submarines, then cruise missiles, and then we have seen the military satellites, bombers, all started coming in. At the end of the Cold War, you have seen the new things have come from platform centric, people move to network centric. The artificial intelligence, IoT, they all come in now. So war is moving to intelligent and autonomous systems. So space-based systems have come. Satellites will participate in war. Then high-power microwaves, missile and anti-missile. So sensor networking, cruise missiles, then undersea nuclear submarine war. All these things are going to come. Very importantly, is going to be a cyber warfare scenario. So this change from human-centric to platform-centric to network-centric, the warfare has moved. So how all these rockets started coming in? When we talk about the remotely operated missiles, which can go and destroy the enemy, the first war rocket was made by India. In 1792, this you are hearing the British video where so they have considered that this British was defeated by the Indians who used rockets first. The basic material, gunpowder, came from China. They used it as a fire arrow, but the innovation was to make that thing to go farther distance. So 1 to 1.5 kilometer distance it can go when you have got only 2 kilograms of gunpowder attached to a sword. So this is when it's launched like this, the sword is heavier, so this goes tumbling, and then they were piercing the horses. That's how the British who came in cavalries, they were defeated. And in 1799, the next war, the British killed Tipu and took away more than 10,000 of these rockets and used it against Napoleon in Waterloo and defeated Napoleon. So that's how the rocket technology went to the Europe. And you can see these rocket held by me is actually used in war to defeat the British, and it is kept in a museum in London. And it's the original rocket. So the technology, the innovative technology of making the gunpowder as a rocket using the chamber is a wrought iron chamber, and then the warhead is a sword, then opening with a nozzle, and then igniter. All these things have come from our land. So missiles are very important because when you have got a nuclear weapon, but nuclear weapon has to be carried to long distance. That means you need. So if you see the P5 countries, the 5 countries who are permanent members of the Security Council, they all possess intercontinental missiles and also nuclear weapons. So that is why Baba thought that we should have a nuclear weapon. Now, Dr. Kalam thought if we are having a nuclear weapon, we should develop a system which can carry for a long distance. So that's how the missile technology came in. In 1983, he started a missile to prove that our country is a strong nation. His slogan is strength, respect, strength. Unless you are strong, nobody will respect you. So, but when the new program was conceived by him with 5 missiles, the major problem was we were 30 to 40 years behind the developed nations. Because during the Second World War, they started the work. We are now doing it in 80. So that's how we are behind. Second thing is there was no flow of technology to developing nations. The big powers, they introduced Missile Technology Control Regime, MTCR, which prevent this, the MTCR prevents flow of technology, flow of components, flow of support, all these things. So there's a big constraint on the flow of technology. So you are behind, but you are also not given the technological input. And the technology also moving very fast. User requirement changing, war strategy is changing, and with all the things we have found, our industries are not capable of making the long, the weapons, and larger production is not possible. See, this was the situation in our nation in 1983. So we seriously discussed and we finally decided that whenever you want to develop something, this should be accepted by our user. That is Army, Navy, and Air Force. That means the weapon must be contemporary in performance at the time of deployment. Otherwise, our user has no interest on the weapon. He can go and import. So to make him to accept, you have to provide a contemporary performance. If you want to have a contemporary performance, you have to use futuristic technology, which is not envisaged by even developed countries. We should use newer concepts which are not known to the developed nations. So we are now competing with the developed nation in terms of technology and concepts, though we are far behind them. So the whole thing is revolving around the type of design which we can do, type of technology we can forecast, all those things. So nearly 1 year of brainstorming, certain things came out that we must go for technologies which are not being developed or have not been developed by the developed nations. So that necessitated networking with multiple institutions for technology development. We cannot do alone. Then you need a program management and leadership. All these things are the IGMDP, Integrated Guidance Missile Program, gave a big lesson to this nation how to manage big programs, multiple missiles to come, and that with high technology. You have to also bring newer concepts which have not been tried out by anybody. All these things, bringing uncertainty into the whole arena of the development. So this is how we started, and we evolved certain criteria. Strategic systems means you have to. Nobody will talk, nobody will share the things, but you have to develop, and under the MTCR condition. So we evolved certain plan. Nearly 200 technologies were identified. Some of them were available. Many of them are not available. So whether it can be substituted, or we can think of having partnership with some people, and 4 or 5 can join together and develop, or we can have a consortium approach, or we have to grow the technology, nucleate the technology by technology empowerment, or collaboration. Collaboration is not possible because we decided we will not go for collaboration. We'll do everything by ourselves. So this is a product development, do it ourselves. Pool the nation's talent. Academy and industry should also play a role in the missile development. That was the thing which we started with. You are seeing the Prithvi missile you are seeing, and this missile is surface to surface. Prithvi means earth. Surface to surface this missile goes. And what is the beauty of that is, the whole world who have developed the surface missile, they have gone for a ballistic trajectory. So this is a launch point, is a target point. Missile goes in a ballistic trajectory, like this. That is called parabolic trajectory. This is physics. So when you make a missile to go up, when the propulsion is over, it retraces the path. Everybody has done that. But what we have done, we should not do that. We will go for maneuverable trajectory. That means you can do in a yaw plane and also pitch plane. You can go on varying its trajectory so that at any given point of time, enemy will not know where is the target point. See, when yaw plane means, suppose you are talking about Simla to Delhi, you don't go straight path Simla to Delhi. You target a point in Punjab somewhere and then trace it like this. You go in a airplane, go on maneuvering. So the enemy is now trying to see from the satellite, from his radar. He will be thinking it is going to some place, but finally when it reaches the target only you will know. So that is going to give a surprise. First time in the world, the maneuverable trajectory was designed by our scientists. So it was thinking different. What is called the innovation, which made us very important player in the missile arena. Why I am saying that is, in 91 only people understood that when a missile is launched, you have to intercept it. When Saddam Hussein launched the Scud missiles, Patriot missile was launched by the Americans to intercept it. Because Scud missile was going in a parabolic trajectory, they could identify where it is going, whether it is targeting Tel Aviv, then they can send the Patriot missile. But now when Prithvi goes to some place with a huge warhead, 1 ton warhead, it goes, enemy will not know which is the target. Where it goes, nobody will know. So this is the type of new thinking which was introduced first time in the defense. So this is thinking different. Similarly, when there is a warhead, this warhead is assembled and the missile is ready to go. But in our case, last 15 minutes, if our user wants to change the warhead for depending on the target, it is possible to just change it. So multiple warheads interchangeable at the time of launch. Then accuracy. Third important thing is when it goes from one point to another point, it has to reach the point correctly. So accuracy is very important. This accuracy, realizing the accuracy, we have to use the conventional sensors. The good sensors will not be given by the developed countries. We have to use only the sensors developed in our country. Like HAL has developed certain sensors like the rate gyro. So we have to use that. So when you use that, whether we will achieve that target accuracy? No. So for that, we have developed a new thing that is called infusing, that is injecting software into the hardware, the new logic we developed. That means the few of our young people, they sat together and then thought that the error which is being built while traveling in the trajectory can be simulated and can be corrected by software. So this is the first time the software is used to drive the sensor to correct it. That was done, and we have achieved very good accuracy. Today, if you launch, you can target it with 10 meters accuracy. This is a very important thing with the coarse sensor, not with the high accurate sensor. So maneuverable trajectory, accuracy, multiple warheads, all these things are new to the ballistic missiles, which was used first time, and today it is available with the Army, Navy, and Air Force. Navy is on the ships with the nuclear warhead. This is Prithvi. Then if you look at the Agni program is a very important program for us because it's a long range missile. When you think of a long range missile, if it has to go up. That is this Agni, which is 5,000 kilometer range. What you are seeing, it goes to 800 kilometer altitude, and then it comes back. So the trajectory is like that re-entry. So when it re-enters, it has to face a temperature of 3000 degrees centigrade. You know about Kalpana Chawla. When the Kalpana Chawla, after the mission, the space shuttle re-entered at 85 kilometers, the temperature was nearly 3000 degrees centigrade, and one of the tiles had a crack. This is the thermal protection tile. And through the crack, the flame went and the whole space shuttle blasted off. So the re-entry technology is a very important technology, highly guarded. When the people say intercontinental ballistic missile, the re-entry is a very, very important thing. So we have to master that. So today, India, I can say, we have mastered the re-entry technology. We have different versions of, Agni, from 700 kilometer a single stage to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 kilometers. Different ranges we have got for different targets. So this is when you can see that you are totally protected. You can see this is the circle what you are saying. You launch from here, you are covering complete northern region. You can see the countries are named there. So we are totally protected with a huge nuclear warhead, thermonuclear warhead. It is there. So nobody can wag the tail against India. Another important technology developed during Agni was the supercomputer. You know, when you want to design the re-entry heat shield, it has to withstand high temperature, but it should not change its configuration. But even with the high temperature, it should ablate, but uniformly it should ablate, and it should not distort because it has to reach the correct target. So this is a very important requirement, but we need, hypersonic tunnel and so many requirements which we are not having. So infrastructure we didn't have, except that we have got a software knowledge. So the computational fluid dynamics is the tool used for analyzing various configurations. So we had more than 100 configurations, and each configuration had 100,000 grid points, and each grid point has to be analyzed for the thermal stress it has to manage and the structural load. So what we need is each analysis, each grid point. When you start analyzing, conventional computer, it was taking 9 days for each iteration. So you have to do 1 lakh iterations for one configuration. Similarly, you have to do for multiple configurations. So it is going to take time. So we thought that we should have supercomputer, but supercomputer was denied to us. When Dr. Kalam went to Washington and requested them to do a Cray computer, it was refused to him. So, but young people, 14 young people joined together, and they developed a new supercomputer that's called parallel processor, Hypercube, and it was 20 times faster than the Cray XMP, which was refused to us. In 24 months, they developed. So that has made with the software, advanced software, it has made our iteration from 9 days to 5 minutes. So this is a type of innovative approach. Instead of making a big supercomputer, they made a logic, a parallel computing system, and they found out the way to do the process, and then develop a new type of software called instead of conventional Euler software, we have developed our BIMA software, Karishma, like that. So this software has reduced the time of total operation, and today we are one of the supercomputing powers. So this is a type of thing, one is the motivation which has to come to the mind. So young people, the youth, has got enormous power. So it should be deployed. So Dr. Kalam, why he is so famous is he is able to generate that enthusiasm to the youth to come out with new ideas and develop new things. So that's how we have achieved many of the technologies. More than 200 technologies have been achieved. And the recent one is the Mission Shakti, where we could send a missile to hit a satellite. So anti-satellite system also we have proved. So it's in the missile arena, if you see all the things we can design, develop any type of missiles, and it will be very innovative. So the leadership came from Dr. Kalam, that's why the inspirational leadership. And we have realized all the critical technologies to combat the missile technology control regime. So when they imposed missile technology control regime, they thought India will not be able to develop a missile. But we proved to them, you denied technology, we have gained the technology. Technology denied, this technology gained. We have all the technologies you have refused to us. We have become a missile power. So this is what we proved to the West in 10 years' time. They came down, they wanted cooperation later, and we told them that many of the things, like the CRAX, we refused to them. So the technology is also used for societal purpose. The re-entry heat shield, that carbon phenolic heat shield, that is used as the upright for polio-affected children to reduce the weight. Say conventional caliper is 3 kilograms. Our caliper is only 300 grams. So more than 55,000 children are fitted with the calipers, which they are able to walk freely. That is the same type of shoe, not dragging. They could do that. So similarly, many packages, many things have been developed by us for the medical purpose as well as for the industry use. So that when all nations started thinking about India, that these fellows are very powerful, they can do, even though we denied technology, they could do. So that was the time we were seeing the Gulf War. Fortunately, I was there in Harvard Business School at that time, which is very close to that Gulf War brain power. And we had a lot of discussions, and we found that India also should do missiles, cruise missiles. So this is what you see is the Iraq. It was completely covered with the air defense system. Any bomber coming, the bomber will be blasted off. So Saddam Hussein was very confident that he will be able to tackle the Americans. But the Americans did not do that. They sent cruise missiles. What you have seen here, no, cruise missile, what you saw. Is coming from, it's not coming. So the cruise missile was launched from Persian Gulf and Arabian Sea, and it was launched very quietly from the ship like this. It flies at a very low altitude, and it finished off all these different systems. So the massive attack was given by cruise missiles. More than 1,000 Tomahawk missiles were launched to destroy all the preparations which have been made to defend the nation. So deployment of cruise missiles resulted minimum loss to the Allied forces, as well as it destroyed the enemy in no time. So having seen that, having analyzed the war strategy, we thought that we should do cruise missile. So that has led to the development of BrahMos with the help of the Russians. So this is the engine which I located in Russia. It is the only engine in the whole world to give a supersonic flight. So we used that, and they were very, very much willing. The Soviet Union broke at that time, and they were willing to give technology to us, even the guarded technology. So we joined together, and we formed a joint venture with $250 million. India contributing 50.5, Russians contributing 49.5. Because of that 59.5, we have become a private company, even though government money was given. Joint venture company was formed to design, develop, manufacture, and marketing the most advanced missile in the world. So we quietly started doing that from 98, and in 2001 we launched the first missile and putting our process stock. using Russian process stock and developed. The BrahMos stands for Brahmaputra and Moskova, the name of two rivers. So this is a very remarkable achievement. The system has been installed on ships for the Navy and on land for Army and for aircraft for the Air Force. So ship to ship, you can see you can destroy a ship in no time because of the speed as well as the type of accuracy it has got. Even without warhead also you can destroy because of the speed. So we proved to the Navy that this system will never fail. So it is now it is incorporated in all the ships of our Navy. Similarly, in the land and also for the Air Force. This is the Air Force launch from Sukhoi. BrahMos is launched. It launched in Andaman, over Andaman Sea to an island where the target, it has to hit the target between the two red points. The red points are the camera stations. It has to hit here. It has exactly hit the target in the island. There's no warhead, but you see the blast. You see that this is the target point. It has to hit here. Exactly, it hit the target. So in speed, precision, and power, we are number one in the world. This is a comparison with America. US has got Tomahawk. We are 3 times faster, so 1/3 time we can reach the target. Energy is velocity square, so we have got 9 times we are powerful. And reaction time given to the enemy is less, so he is definitely will get destroyed. And then salvo, you can launch missiles every 3 seconds. And Tomahawk is interceptable. We are not interceptable because of the speed. This is subsonic. BrahMos is supersonic. We are number one in the world. Many industries have been used. Today, we have got 205 industries working on producing BrahMos in the country with 20,000 full-time employees. So we have established all stations for production as well as deployment points in the border. Everywhere it is, the missile is already deployed. So how do you make a globally competitive product? First thing is you have to have concepts. Concept is, can we leapfrog? Why to follow others? You think of leadership. Can we leapfrog? Then from the very beginning, you should think of markets, mind to markets. Establish a brand. This was the thing which we started for BrahMos. Innovation is speed, precision, and power, which is dictated by the future war. Creativity is by a novel JV concept, government-funded private company, so that you get freedom to decide and do the work, and one step higher than state-of-the-art technology. Leadership is thinking ahead, managing complexities because 2 nations are involved. We have to work together to realize the products. Then you have to create the synergy to get the product done, get the project moved, and you have to use best project management practices. Here only the PMA India is coming. So we are partner to, when I was in BrahMos, we were partner to PMA India. So we use these new practices of the IPMA. And you have to build the competency for the people to do the work and network with all stakeholders, industry from day one, and technology partner with industries, institutions, as well as with the Russian industries. Then finally leading to a world-class product. A world-class product done on time, produced in numbers, will win the war. So that is what our mantra. So Brahmastra, we have not only BrahMos, we have made Brahmastra now. Highly demanded product by Indian Armed Forces. Many countries are asking for it, but we are not doing. So all this leads to science, technology leads to sustainable development for the society. So here only we come, discoveries, inventions will all lead to new technologies which will incorporate new innovations and skills. We need skills for, so the institutions of higher learning and higher skill development is very much essential. We want to really add value to technology. So knowledge solutions to come to become a competitive power, better environment and sustainable development for society. So technology and innovations and skill can affect the most fundamental changes, the ground rules of economic competitiveness and environment, resulting sustainable development to the society. So now we are looking at what is happening to the industry. Industry is now moving towards Industry 4.0, where cyber physical systems is going to be a very important thing. So we are from steam, we went to electricity to computer, and ICT all came, and now we are thinking of cyber physical systems. What are the modules for that? AI, artificial intelligence, autonomous robots, simulation, big data analytics, augmented reality, 3D printing, that is additive manufacturing, cyber security, industrial Internet of Things, then integration, all these things constitute. These are the building blocks for Industry 4.0. So if you do that, what is going to happen? If you take any product, it has got a life cycle. Specifications, design, process and manufacturing, production, servicing, customer feedback and product improvement. These are the stages of the product life cycle. So what is going to give more value to the product? Deciding a good specification will give some value, but design is very important. You see the value, 50% of the value is controlled by the design, then process. And look at the quality, which is going to determine the quality. Again, you see 40% is controlled by design, 10% is by the specifications, and again about 30% comes in the process and manufacturing. So you will see both quality and value, they are controlled by design. Design dictates quality, reliability, producibility and cost of the product. So here only we have to develop the skill. So influence of design skill in product quality and value is very, very important. So design and manufacturing are powered by skill and knowledge content. So if you have got the required skill, skill can help to leapfrog in technology competence and knowledge powered society and economy. See, if you take this fulcrum, we can always import. This red is import, zone of import. You get the know-how, produce it in our country, manufacture on technology transfer base. So that is one way. You innovate, develop your own design and develop your own technology, bring synergy through partners. That means you know why. You know manufacturing, you know the process, everything is known to you. If that is so, you see that if this is the fulcrum, you get that advantage. So the main advantage will come when you have the design knowledge, you become the exporter. So that is why the skill development is very important requirement. So skill will lead to knowledge powered society. You can technical skill like IT, communication, biotechnology, aerospace, smart materials, like all these things will lead to societal transformation. You are talking about space, tele-education, telemedicine, e-governance, native knowledge products, all these things will lead to societal transformation, which will give employment generation, higher productivity, high industrial growth, empowerment of weaker sections, network and transparent society, rural prosperity, all will come to generating wealth. The other dimension is security of the nation. Intelligent and autonomous weapons, knowledge sensors, software-dominated high-technology products, information warfare, dominant battlefield knowledge. I was stretching all these points. So these will all lead to knowledge-based systems and goals. So in the 2020 target, we wanted to achieve certain things as a knowledge society. Nuclear weapons state we achieved. Strategic missiles we have realized. Self-reliant space program. Self-sufficiency in food. World's largest milk producer. IT core competence. Supercomputing. Green power. All these things we are doing. So what I am trying to say is the Vision 2020 has not been fully realized in terms of eliminating the poverty and improving the our economy. But we have achieved many things, many milestones we have achieved, and we can very soon, in another 5 years' time, will be able to show that we are really a developed nation. So what is required today is the human resource cadre we have to develop. So we have presently 700 million youth below 35 years. Progressively it will increase to 1 billion. The 2050 target is 1 million youth. We will be the country with the largest youth resource. So what we are thinking is our education system, our skill development, all these things lead to two global human resource cadre. Two cadres. One cadre, youth with world-class technical skill. In manufacturing and service, they will rule the world. They will be demanded everywhere in the world because world is depleting, youth is depleting. So you have got a strong point to give the youth to the world. So skill to be developed in different fields, yes, so that they are available to the world. Another type of skill is higher education, scientific research. This is to make our people to become a world-class, knowledge-based product systems develop. Inventions should come. So if you want a Nobel Prize to an Indian, this group of people should be groomed for such area. These people should be groomed to go out from India and to occupy the whole world. See, that's very important because Indian skills will be demanded everywhere. Today, if you see, everyone is pricing Indian skill, every country. So we should make advantage of that, develop the skill for that. And also we should think of scientific research skill, good laboratories we must develop. So the education, if you see today, it is 2015, if you take, it has improved from 6% to 20%, higher education. And we have to improve to more than 50%. That's what we should aim at. This is about the human resource development. So we are starting the new ecosystem for startups, for the engineers who are coming out. 2019, we spent about 663 crore only the early stage funding of startups. So startups are coming up in a big way. I know in IIT Madras, there's a big startup scheme. In IIT Delhi, there's got so many universities and educational institutions have started. So the engineering students, they're all thinking of startups. So our skill development also should include how we can bring in people as entrepreneurs. So that's what we should do. So some segments which give opportunity now after COVID-19 is telemedicine, education technologies, online entertainment, then AI and data science, augmented reality, drone-based solutions, precision farming, digital solutions for these are all things which can be attempted by the startups. They're trying to do that now. So when you can create ignited minds, Dr. Abdul Kalam says, ignited minds of the youth is the most powerful resource on the earth, above the earth, and under the earth. How will you get ignited minds? You have to develop them. So skill development is very important. Basic education, creativity, that is second, knowledge, third one is skill. All have to come together to create ignited minds. So who will bring that ignited minds? You need leaders, creative leaders. So when you easily talk developed India, when you talk, developed India will not come just like that. Developed India needs economic development. Economic development will come only if your product is competitive in the world. That needs knowledge. That needs technology. Technology and knowledge will bring a good product which is competitive in the world, which will make the nation great. But for technology development, you need resource, investment. And then that investment should also give revenue. That means you have to produce more volume and repeat sales. That depends on customer loyalty. Customer loyalty will come only when you have a product is of quality and value. So that depends on employee productivity. Employee loyalty is important if he has to produce more. So for getting loyalty, you have to satisfy the employee. So employee satisfaction is a very important component to finally to get customer loyalty and to produce more to generate resource. Now, when the employee will get satisfied, the working environment is good. That means management stewardship should come. That will come from creative leaders. A creative leader gives a good management, good working environment, bring an employee to produce quality product, generate more revenue, invest on new technologies, generate knowledge power, make the country competitive to develop economy. So when you say developed India, we need creative leaders. So creative leader is who? Creative leadership means exercising the vision to change the traditional role from the commander to the coach, from manager to mentor, from director to delegator, and from one who demands respect to one who facilitates self-respect. So if you have got a great aim in life, you will succeed. When will you succeed? When you are inspired by some great purpose, some extraordinary task, all your thoughts break their bounds. Your mind transcends limitations. Your consciousness expands in every direction. And you find yourself in a new, great, and wonderful world. Dormant forces, faculties, and talents in the body come alive. So when you discover yourself, and you discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamt yourself to be. So when you are inspired by a great purpose, everything will come to you. You will discover yourself to be a greater person by far than you ever dreamt yourself to be, to do that inspired purpose. So when inspiration will come, like this rose, our mind should blossom. Let our minds blossom at NSDF to make India a highly skilled nation. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I am falling short of words to convey my hearty gratitudes to Dr. Pillai, sir, on such a wonderful presentation, sir. We are enlightened on this new topic and all these new discoveries you have made with Dr. Abdul Kalam or with the Dr. Professor Sarabhai and all these great visionary engineers from India. Sir, I am very thankful to you for sparing your valuable time from your busy schedule for NSDF platform. Now I request Engineer Sunil Grover to conclude and say vote of thanks to Dr. Pillai, sir.
Do you have any questions from the audience?
Yeah, we have received one or two questions only, and one question is basically on the name of BrahMos, that how it was, and it has been given to an Indian missile. Probably you have clarified, and you have now, if you really wish to say to that gentleman, you please. His actual question is.
From Shekhar, how the name BrahMos
Yeah.
was arrived at for an Indian missile?
Okay. See, Brahma is our man. Brahmaputra is our river. So any new creation is starting from Brahma. So when we thought about the naming the missile, it was supposed to be used as anti-ship missile initially. That means you have to give a water name. And the most fiercing or forcing or water comes from the Brahmaputra river. So you know how much destruction it makes while giving benefit to us. So we thought of Brahmaputra river. But it is a joint venture. We have to give credit to our partner. So we asked our partner, which river you have got like Brahmaputra. He said, there's no river like Brahmaputra. Our rivers are very soft rivers, but we are on the bank of Moskva River. So you put Moskva River. So Brahmaputra River and Moskva joined together, it became BrahMos. That's how the name has been made for the joint venture between India and Russia.
There is another question.
Is it
Okay, please, sir.
Yes.
There is another question from Shekhar. It says, can project management become a branch in technical institutions?
Surely. Today, you see, you do anything you want to do, there is a project management. But you have to do it professionally. For making it professionally, you have to be competitive. What the difference between any project management to IPMA, our project management system which we are following, is that difference is we make the people competent to do the project management. We are not teaching project management. We are teaching how an individual can become competitive to do project management in the way it should be done so that no project fails. That is our approach. So the very important thing is it has to get into the curriculum of the educational institutions. My point is that it should go into the schools. School education should have project management. So the college education should have, when you talk about science also project management comes. Research also project management comes. Uncertainties, how you will tackle project management comes. And particularly engineering education, it should be one of the subjects. We have done it in IIT Delhi. We are having an elective subject on the project management. It is being successfully conducted. We have introduced in IIM. The IIM Trichy has very well introduced it with a lot of support from students. So it should get into all the educational institutions. And that's why we are coming to you as the skill development. We want you to promote project management while you develop skill at many areas. Technical skill means project management is very important. If you want to perform, if you want to be competitive, if you want to be a successful manager and leader.
The other participants have asked for the presentation, so it is for the information of all the attendees that this very live presentation is available, which is being video streamed on the YouTube channel of NSDF IEI and shall remain as an part of that channel to be seen by anybody at their leisure and take any lesson or guidance from. Now,
Some remarks we have received, sir,
a lot
from
of
the
remarks.
lot of remarks. Excellent presentation by Dr. Pillai, sir, who is now in a lead role to guide and inspire young scientists and engineers. Kudos to Dr. Pillai, sir. All the participants are saying this.
Thank you very much.
G at National Skill Development had been privileged, that we have been able to come to that expectation of PMA, that they have made us their associates for skill development, which is, to my mind, is the need of the hour. The National Skill Development Forum, an independent fora of Institution of Engineers, India, a largest professional body in the world of engineers, having almost 0.8 million members across the country. And the PMA, the leadership, providing project management, to my mind, project management is the mother. If you are able to manage a project well, you are able to get those timelines met of a project you thought of. I think we'll be able to do justice, and I assure the audiences as well as PMA leadership that National Skill Development Forum will not leave any stone unturned. Post-pandemic times, asking for more concerted efforts for disruptive innovations and inspirational leadership to achieve the goals set out in SDG or the goals set out by our visionary and achiever, Dr. Abdul Kalam. And we are privileged to have one of his companion who has spent 40 years of his time with that legendary visionary. And this visionary talk has not only by a visionary, but an achiever too, as ultimately the BrahMos partnership culminated in saying very rightly that our Dr. Pillai is father of BrahMos. What a great pleasure for me to have you been telling that this is after the AGM of Institution of Engineers India, which concluded on 28th February. During the post-pandemic time, we had 51 webinars. And after the AGM on this 5th of March, this is the first webinar post-AGM, and a webinar on a topic which cannot be more apt than to talk about, than to work about on to for the desired goal. Dr. Pillai started with very simply saying that we are going to discuss disruptive innovations and the inspirational leadership. As he himself has been an inspiring leader, and he has been fortunate to work with legendary of the kind Dr. Homi Bhabha, Dr. Sarabhai, Dr. Satish Dhawan, and Dr. Abdul Kalam. He spoke in very simple word, the fusion technology. And we could follow that technology and its importance. He could tell us in a very simple words about ISRO and their chairman's nobility when the first mission failed. How the Agni 1, the technology gained when the technology denied. But to my mind, the technology was not denied probably, but for its cost prohibitiveness and the stubbornness and the rigidness of Dr. Abdul Kalam that we are going to develop this Agni from our own Indian scientists, from our own Indian technologies by igniting the young minds under him. And I had an opportunity to meet such one young mind at Bangalore in the name of Dr. Vijay Sundaram, who was the first engineer in that design team of young engineers chosen by Dr. Kalam. And as rightly said by Dr. Pillai, that the leadership's nobility definitely ignites the young minds. Because young minds work in anxiety, in a manner where they want to lead to the conclusion in times which are, they say that it will be doing, and that has been shown, like COVID-19 vaccine has come out of the engineering scientists in a time frame of less than 1 year. So this is the young mind, when get ignited, can deliver results the way you want in the time you want. I think 7 Nations Consortium, the integrated missile development system, the strategy of critical technology, going and telling us about mission Agni to mission Shakti, and then making us to feel proud that we are top in speed, top in precision, top in power. Sir, such a wonderful discourse to the people who are listening it and to the people who can listen it at their leisure on this YouTube channel. I think National Skill Development Forum has achieved its first goal, that the message post-pandemic loud and clear that we have to meet the human society's aspirations in the shape of clean water, clean energy, clean air, and then no hunger, no poverty. Where India at this point in time, having 300 million people still living below the poverty line, and 25% have no formal education. I think the inspirational leadership need to be cultivated at a very fast pace. The disruptive innovations have to come into fore in the shape of new technologies which need to be adopted by the academia, the industria, and the user groups to come up to a level that we give our planet the healthy life to the people who live in it. I think with these words, I thank engineer, scientist Arvind Agarwal, the Senior Director, Project Management Associates, India, and my dear colleague, Engineer V.M. Joshi, who for the last 3 days I have seen has gone under sleepless nights to make this very visionary talk out of visionary and achiever, Dr. Pillai, a grand success. And I think time will tell that this first visionary talk culminating into more and more people coming to the fore of the partnership of NSDF and PMA whereby we will be able to disseminate knowledge, share knowledge, and make our young mind adapted to the new challenges to come up with the human aspirations, fulfillments by achieving the goals set out in those 17 volumes by Dr. Kalam or on his book Vision 2020 and beyond, and the goals to be set out by the visionary like Dr. Pillai, who can vouch the government of India's corridors for telling them that for research and development 0.6% of GDP is being spent, that be taken to a higher level, and furthermore liberalized volumes of monies need to be spent for upskilling and reskilling, skill development, so that this very inspirational leadership comes with quality people to achieve the goals and targets in set out times by 2030 and to make this India the Vishwa Guru. Once again, thank you very much, our great visionary Dr. Pillai, engineer and scientist Agarwal, engineer Joshi, team of PMA, team of NSDF for making this very talk a grand success, and thanking my attendees who are maybe short in numbers but will be working as ambassadors and telling others also to run through this very talk on our YouTube channel and come to us with any questions they have. We will be passing it on to Dr. Pillai and coming back to you with the answers he gave or the solutions he gave. Thank you very much. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat, Jai Association of PMA NSDF. Thank you, thank you.
With this, I say wholehearted thank you to Dr. Pillai, to Dr. Agrawal. Now we should stand for national anthem.
आप कर लो, कुछ नहीं होता।
Thank you to all of you, sir. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you, sir.